It's 3 in the morning. Your chest is tight. Your thoughts are running laps you never agreed to run. And somewhere in the house, there's a mug, or a wall hanging, or a little framed print with 5 words on it you've read 1,000 times. Be still and know that I am God. When you're calm, that sentence is beautiful. It settles over you like a blanket. But right now, at 3 in the morning, with your heart going like this, those same words can feel like a locked door. Be still. As if you could. As if the problem were that you just hadn't tried hard enough to stop feeling everything you feel. Here's what almost nobody tells you about that verse. The Hebrew word hiding under be still does not mean quiet your mind. It doesn't mean empty your head or breathe slower or meditate. It means something far more physical and far more surprising. And there's a second half to this word, a hidden half. One that turns the whole command from a locked door into just about the kindest thing God could say to a person who can't stop. Stay with me, because both halves matter. And by the end, I think the most exhausting verse in your Bible is going to become the one you reach for first. Let's be honest about why this matters, because I'm not interested in a cute language trick. If you've ever lain awake, white-knuckling your way through a season of fear, waiting on a test result, waiting on a job, waiting to feel like yourself again, then you know exactly how be still can land. It can sound like God leaning over your bed and saying, "Would you please just calm down? Stop bothering me about it. Feel nothing." As if faith were a mood you could summon on command. And the fact that you can't means something's wrong with you. If that were really all this verse meant, I'd understand walking away from it. A God who shows up in the middle of your worst night just to tell you to be quiet isn't much of a comfort. But that isn't what the verse says. It isn't even close. We've just been reading the thinnest possible version of a word that's carrying something much heavier and much warmer than the English lets on. So let's go get the rest of it back. The Hebrew word is rah-fah. You say it rah-fah. And rah-fah does not mean quiet your mind. It means let go. Sink down, drop your hands, go slack, stop striving. And here's the part that changes how the whole verse feels. It wasn't whispered in a candlelit room. It was shouted over a battlefield in the middle of an earthquake while the whole world was coming apart. Be still isn't the mood of a spa, it's the command of a general. And the person it's spoken to isn't relaxed, they're gripping. I don't want you to take my word for any of that. It's checkable. Every piece of it. So let's check it. Start with what the dictionaries actually say, because that part isn't controversial at all. The standard Hebrew lexicon, the one scholars just call Brown Driver Briggs, gives the core meaning of rah-fah like this: to sink, to relax, to sink down, to let drop, to be disheartened. Read that list again, slowly. Sink, drop, go slack. There's not a single word in there about the mind, not one word about being quiet. At its root, rah-fah is a word about something loosening its hold, a muscle unclenching, a rope going limp, a thing that was tight and now isn't. And it's not some rare word that shows up once and leaves us guessing. Rah-fah appears 46 times across the Hebrew Bible, in 45 different verses. That's a word with a track record. We can watch how it behaves in dozens of places, and everywhere it goes, it carries this same gravity: sinking, dropping, releasing. So when we get to Psalm 46 and read, "Be still," we're not staring at a mystery. We already know what this word does. It lets go. Now look at the exact shape of the word in the verse, because it sharpens the point. In Psalm 46, verse 10, rah-fah shows up in a form the grammarians call the hifil imperative. Don't worry about the label. Here's what it means in plain terms. It's a command, and it's plural. God isn't murmuring a suggestion to one person. He's barking an order to a whole crowd. You, all of you, let go. Drop it. You can actually watch the translators wrestle with it, and it's worth watching because it tells you they felt the weight I'm describing. Some of them refuse to soften it at all. The New American Standard Bible doesn't say "be still," it says "cease striving." The newer edition of it goes further and says "stop striving." The Jewish Study Bible is blunter still. It boils the whole command down to a single hard syllable: desist. Not relax, not breathe. Desist. The word you'd bark at someone charging toward you. 4 different translation teams, 4 different tries, and every one of them is reaching for the same thing: stop, let go. Not one of them is reaching for empty your mind. Now, the King James and the ESV do keep be still, and I want to be completely fair about that, because here's the honest wrinkle most videos skip. Be quiet does sit inside the range of this word. Brown Driver Briggs lists it. So be still is not a mistranslation. I'm not here to tell you your Bible got it wrong. What I'm telling you is that be still is the softest, gentlest reading of a word whose beating heart is let go. The translation isn't broken, it's just been read thin. We took the quietest word in the family and forgot it had louder siblings. Cease, drop, release, stop. And when you lose those, you lose the whole muscle of the verse. So hold that picture: a word that means go slack, a command that means drop it. Because now we have to walk into the room where it was spoken. And that room is nothing like the one on the coffee mug. We tend to imagine be still floating in a kind of soft focus silence, sunrise over a lake, a gentle morning. Read the rest of the psalm, and that picture shatters. Before God ever says, be still, the psalm piles up catastrophe. The earth is giving way. The mountains are being moved into the heart of the sea. The waters are roaring and foaming. And it's not just nature coming apart. It's the nations. The nations rage. The kingdoms totter. This is an earthquake and an invasion happening at the same time. The ground is liquid, and there's an army at the gate. And right in the middle of that, this same God is described doing something ferocious. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the war chariots with fire. So picture it, honestly. Be still is not spoken to somebody having a peaceful morning. It's spoken over a collapsing world by a God who is actively disarming the battlefield. It's not a whisper, it's a stand-down order. It's the voice of the one person in the room who isn't afraid, telling everyone else, drop your weapons, stop, it's over, I've got this. That reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? Be still was never asking you to feel calm. It was telling you to stop fighting a battle that God had already taken out of your hands. There's a footnote to this psalm that hardly anybody hears, and once you know it, the whole thing lands even harder. About 500 years ago, a man named Martin Luther took this exact psalm, Psalm 46, and turned it into a song. You've almost certainly heard it, even if the title doesn't ring a bell. A mighty fortress is our God. It's a paraphrase of this psalm, start to finish. And here's the part that gets me. Luther didn't write that hymn on a good day. He wrote it somewhere around the year 1527, during some of the darkest years of his whole life. There was plague in his city. There was death moving through the streets around him. And for a long time, people have understood that hymn not as a battle march, not as a chest-thumping victory chant, but as a song of comfort. A man singing himself steady in the middle of an earthquake. Which is the whole point, isn't it? Be still was never a word for people whose lives were going well. It's always been a word for the person in the storm. Luther knew that. He reached for this psalm precisely because the ground under him was shaking. Which raises a fair question. When God says, be still, who exactly is he talking to? And here I have to be straight with you, because scholars genuinely don't agree, and I'm not going to pretend they do just to make this tidier. One reading says the command is aimed at God's own frightened people. Stop your anxious striving. Wait. Trust me instead of scrambling. That's the version most of us assume. But there's another reading. It's the one the reformer John Calvin leaned toward, and honestly, it might be the stronger one. On this reading, be still is aimed at the raging nations, the enemies. It's God turning to the armies throwing themselves against his people and saying, desist. Give it up. And when your fury finally burns itself out, you'll realize who it was you were actually fighting. Here's what I love about that debate. It doesn't matter which way it breaks for the point to land. Whether God is talking to the terrified or to the furious, the command is exactly the same. Stop striving. Whether your striving looks like fear or looks like war, let go. So look at what we're holding now. A word that means go slack. A command form that means drop it. A translation a whole Jewish scholarly team boiled down to one blunt syllable: desist. A room full of earthquake and war. And a God standing in the center of all of it with one order for everybody, the scared and the raging alike: let go. But let go of what, exactly? That's where this stops being a language lesson and starts being about you. Because here's the picture the Hebrew keeps handing us. And it's not a picture of a mind, it's a picture of hands. That same word, rah-fah, is the word the Bible uses for hands going slack. When a soldier loses his nerve, the phrase is that his hands go weak. That's rah-fah. When you want to encourage someone who's giving up, the command is literally, do not let your hands be weak. Do not let them rah-fah. Do not let them drop. And when someone wants to sabotage a person, to break their resolve, the Hebrew says they weakened his hands. There's a moment where officials complain that the prophet Jeremiah is doing exactly that, weakening the hands of the soldiers, draining the fight right out of them. Same word. It's what a grip does when it finally gives up. So the image living underneath "be still" isn't a quiet head on a pillow. It's a pair of hands finally opening. It's a fist that's been clenched so long it aches, uncurling one finger at a time. Rah-fah is what your grip does when you stop holding on. And that you can actually do. You might not be able to command your racing thoughts to sit down and behave. Nobody can. But you can notice what your hands are doing. You can feel the grip. And you can, slowly, let it open. So let me ask you the real question. At 3 in the morning, what are you gripping? Because it's always something specific, isn't it? It's the outcome you're trying to force, the diagnosis you keep rereading, as if the words might rearrange themselves into better news if you stare long enough. The person you can't fix and can't stop trying to fix. The conversation you keep rehearsing at 2 in the morning. The plan you keep running one more time, as if the 20th rehearsal will finally hand you the control that the first 19 didn't. That's the striving God is talking about. Not your prayers, not your feelings, your grip. And notice, nobody had to teach you to grip. It's automatic. The moment the ground starts shaking, your hands close. That's not a character flaw, that's a reflex. It's what a frightened body does. But a reflex that keeps you clenched for months doesn't protect you anymore. It just wears you down. It's the same word the lexicon reached for at the very start: disheartened, worn thin. A grip held so long the heart goes tired inside it. So let me say something as gently and as clearly as I can, because I think a lot of us have gotten this exactly backwards. Your anxious striving is not proof that your faith is broken. It's proof that you're tired. It's a grip that's been holding on so long it forgot it was allowed to open. Be still isn't God scolding you for feeling too much. It's God prying your fingers, one at a time, off of something that was never yours to carry in the first place. Here's what stays with me though. Letting go is not the same thing as doing nothing. And it does not mean gritting your teeth and white-knuckling your faith all alone in the dark. Think about Elijah. This is the great prophet. Not a beginner, not a doubter. A man at the very top of his calling. And he's so burned out, so wrung dry, that he sits down under a broom tree in the desert and asks God to let him die. He's done. He wants out. And here's what God does. God does not rebuke him. God does not hand him a lecture about faith, or a new assignment, or a verse to memorize. An angel simply wakes him up and says, "Get up and eat." And there's bread, baked over coals, and a jar of water right by his head. Elijah eats. He sleeps. And then, this is the part I can't get over, the angel comes back and wakes him a second time. Same words, "Get up and eat," as if once wasn't enough. As if God looked at how deep the exhaustion went and said, no, he needs more than that. So Elijah eats again and sleeps again. 2 meals, 2 sleeps, and not one word of correction. God tends the exhausted body first. Before a single word of mission, there's food and water and rest and more rest. Sit with that, because it matters more than almost anything else I'll say tonight. When God's own prophet was at the bottom, God's first medicine was sleep and a meal, which means rest is not a failure of faith. Rest is God's design. And by that same design, hear me on this, reaching for help is not weakness either. Talking to a counselor, sitting with a therapist, taking the medication a good doctor prescribes, letting people carry you when you can't carry yourself. None of that is you failing to be still. That is you being still. That's the grip opening. That's you letting the help God provided actually reach you. God sent an angel with bread. He still sends people with bread. Let them in. And now I can tell you the second half of the word, the hidden half I promised you at the very start. Because here's what I found, and it stopped me cold. That same verb, rah-fah, the word that means let go, drop it, go slack, is the exact word God uses about himself, not about you, about him. When God swears he'll never abandon his people, the promise in Hebrew is, he will not rah-fah you. He will not fail you. He will not let go of you. It's there when Moses tells the people, God will not fail you nor forsake you. It's there again when God says it to Joshua, and it's there a third time in a quieter moment. An old king, David, hands the crushing weight of building the temple to his son Solomon, and the thing he says to steady the boy is this, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed, because God will not fail you nor forsake you until all the work is done. Same word, every time, same verb. Do you feel the weight of that? You are commanded to rah-fah, to let go, and God vows he will never rah-fah you, never let go. It's the same word, pointing in two opposite directions, your open hands and his that will not open. Look back at where that promise shows up, not once in passing. It's on Moses' lips as a whole generation steps into the unknown. It's spoken over Joshua as he takes command. It's what an old, dying king reaches for to steady his terrified son. 3 men, 3 impossible weights, 3 different centuries, and the same steadying word each time. He will not let go of you. You release your grip on the thing you were strangling, and in the same breath, God tightens his grip on you. That's why Be Still was never cruel. That's why it was never God telling you to feel nothing. It's God saying, you can afford to let go because I never will. You are not the thing holding this together. You never were. You can open your hands because someone stronger has already closed his around you. And he has promised, in this very word, that his hands do not slip. You know this feeling in your body, even if you've never had words for it. Picture someone in deep water, gripping the edge of the pool, knuckles white, every muscle locked, terrified that the second they let go, they'll go under. So they hold on harder, they fight the water. And the harder they fight, the more exhausted they get, and the more certain they become that letting go means drowning. But you already know the truth about that water, don't you? You can't float while you're holding the wall. Floating doesn't start until the hand opens. And the miracle is that in the instant the grip finally lets go, the water that was there the whole time, the water that could have held them all along, simply takes the weight. They don't sink, they rise. They rest on top of the very thing they were fighting. That's rah-fah. That's Be Still. It was never a command to try harder to be calm. It was an invitation to stop gripping the wall and discover you were already being held. So the next time you're awake at 3 in the morning and your chest is tight and those 5 words show up on the wall, I hope you hear all of them now. The word that means go slack. The word shouted over a collapsing world and a raging army. The word for a soldier's hands finally opening. The word God spoke while he was breaking every weapon in the room. The word that is somehow, at the very same time, the one thing God swore he would never do to you. Be still. Not, feel nothing. Not, stop bothering me. But, let go. I've got this. I've got you. And I am not letting go. So if you're carrying something tonight that your hands have been locked around for months, a fear, a person, an outcome you can't force, maybe the bravest, most faith-filled thing you can do isn't to grip harder. Maybe it's to open your hands and let the water hold you. If this gave you back a verse you thought you'd lost, stay a while. There's more here waiting for you. And if you know someone lying awake tonight, gripping the wall, send this to them. It might be the hand that helps them let go. What have you been holding on to that you were never meant to carry alone?